Welcome back to Awesome Wildlife Effort. We're down in Wyclosky, Louisiana with Brad Robin. Brad, welcome to the show.
Pleasure.
Now understand...
Welcome to Wyclosky.
This is a beautiful place. How long has it been here?
Well, since the 1800s.
And your family?
My family, some of the family of the first founders of this town.
We see Robin when we drive into town. You've got an RV park. You're loading up a lot of oysters, a lot of shrimp. How big are you guys?
Well, we were way bigger than we are now. Katrina knocked us off the map a little bit, but in the fishing industry, we're probably 7 generations.
7 generations?
In the fishing.
Wow, now understand, like your dad actually was one of the first people to go out to Breton Island.
My dad used to make a living off of Breton Island fishing with rod and reel and different nets, what they call seines and stuff like that, off of Breton Island.
And this going back to the 40s?
Back to the 40s.
And
this business was established in 1947.
And right now you supply most of the restaurants in New Orleans?
I supply a great deal of New Orleans.
But to do that, you've got to morph. There's a lot of changes, BP, there's hurricanes, coastal erosion. What are you guys doing? I mean, how are you surviving to keep your family history going?
One thing about a fisherman is resilient. They always look for ways to come back, and they people that, we don't look for handout. We look to go out and do it. And a hurricane, we've been having hurricanes since 1940, no names. And then they started naming them. My father can tell you a lot more better than that, but a hurricane, we got that we can know what to do with the industry. When a hurricane hits, it puts a film or a silk on our beds. We go out there with our rakes, this thing right here, and we move the stuff around and remove the debris and stuff off the reefs, and the reefs can come back. What we would do different if a Katrina hits now, well, for one thing, we have the greatest wall that's ever built. I call it the Great Wall of China.
I call it the Great Wall of Louisiana, actually,
well,
but I know what you're talking about.
Okay, I really think that's the answer to survival. The problem is, before we had ridges, which we talking about Barry Islands, ridges that were from here into Breton Island. You have ridges that kind of slow down the tide in the water. Katrina wiped that all out. There's no more ridges, there's no more, nothing in between here and the Gulf. It's just a flat plain, level ground. So now when we have water come in, we have more water on the land. When now in this little town where up until Betsy, to put water on this highway where we had, it had a tropical storm or hurricane, named hurricane, put water on this road. Now we just need a northwest wind, or a northeast wind, northeast wind for 3 days. We got to prepare.
Wow.
And that's due from the major loss of the land from hurricanes and the fact of the cuttings of all these pipelines and stuff that they should have filled in at one time.
Right.
But they have never done.
Now that's also causing some issues because obviously with the coastal diversions they're talking about now and the levees, that also puts in a lot of fresh water, a little bit of stress on how the harvesting and the water salinity.
Well, it's a devastating situation for the seafood industry, for this oyster. This oyster needs perfect world where we would say a little salt and a little freshness. Too much fresh, it'll die. Too much salt, it'll die. So you need a balance. The state of Louisiana, due to man-making diversions and levees and stopping waterways to get in all other areas, changed the nature of our growing. And it's drastically. So the industry is suffering. It's people don't realize. When Katrina hit, we was back to about 85 and 90% back to our capacity. Then we got all back to normal. We were happy. We were busted up, lost buildings, lost a few boats and everything. BP came in. We lost everything. Didn't know where we were going to start. We couldn't find oysters. We lost 80%, 90% of our oysters in this coast. So we was wondering how we were going to get back to normal. You need something to start. Some of the areas never had nothing. Some of them still don't have nothing. As of today, in the market in this part of the east side of the river, we are probably about 75% off since BP hit.
Wow. Now, I understand you were crushing rock and you guys taking it into your own hands. to bring back the areas?
After Katrina, we thought that all the slabs from all the devastation of in New Orleans and in St. Bernard, they had mounds and mounds of crushed concrete. So come up with an idea, my brothers and I, and said, hey, how's about let's crush some of this concrete and see what it did. So we took the devastation of the Katrina, took the slabs, crushed it, and we're putting it in the water. Now that does two things. That grows this oyster, because we had to introduce to the water a new culch, which is this stuff, the shells, a culch that oysters can grow on to the base, because our old culch, the old shells that was down in there would not grow.
Okay.
We couldn't get them to grow. So we introduced new material at perfect timing, and it grew oysters. So out of the devastation of a hurricane, we got back to this. But the cost factor, before, myself and other shops used to shuck their own product, and we'll put thousands and thousands and thousands of tons of shells back in the water. When you're getting it from your shop, it's kind of like one hand washes the other.
Sure.
The shop's paying for it, we put it in the water, and we didn't know how much value it was to it. Now we don't have our shops. Louisiana lost probably 30 shucking shops in this area. So then we went to the crushed concrete. Now we reversed from doing it with as much cost to spending millions. Right now the shops are starving. Wow. People don't realize how hard this industry is hurting.
So you guys have taken on yourself to reinvigorate the area of St. Bernard and the waterways for your family, for your culture, for the community to keep on going.
This town, last year, myself and colleagues just like me, put over 200,000 tons of culch material in the marsh.
Wow.
In that water.
Perfect.
Now that does two things. We get it when it grows, but we also put in a foundation in the marsh that you can't see it. It ain't Berry Islands or high. It is something that's under the water, but it's a strong foundation.
Sure.
And it's a foundation to the marsh. You know what's the most rewarding thing to me out of all this? When you go to these fine restaurants and you don't know that they eating your product, and they see that smile on your face, you say, that's success.
That is success. All right. Brett, you are a success. Thanks for being on the show. We're going to go see some oysters, and we'll be right back. Subscribe to Awe News. We've interviewed numerous people, artists, legislators, people operating sanctuaries, activists who are working hard to save vanishing species. Get involved.